tread on me. The government's treading, my friend. When will you speak? When will you speak up? When they come after you? When mass, unidentified federal agents go to your small town?
The government is going after illegal aliens, people that broke the law. Many of them are the worst of the worst. Why would you not want them gone? Why do you want them in your district? Why do you want to protect them?
Governor J.B. Pritzker enacting expansions of Illinois' migrant sanctuary policies, with Republicans pushing back. And it is Illinois in Focus Daily. Good morning. I'm Greg Bishop, editor of Illinois at the Center Square. You can find the latest at thecentersquare.com. Get the newsletter in your inbox. But you'll see the headline there. Pritzker signs, quote, great law against immigration enforcement and dismisses ethics concerns about the law that many say is going to open up a floodgate of lawsuits against a variety of institutions and even police officers. So here's the story. You can read it again at thecentersquare.com. Governor J.B. Pritzker says new law to protect people from federal law enforcement is a great one, despite ethical questions about campaign donations, the bill's sponsors, and private right of action that the measure leads to. So House Bill 1312, which we've talked about in the past. Once the measure was passed, we talked about it because of the floor debate in both the Senate and the House, but also just the mere fact that this bill started out back in January of this year as a measure to recognize prisoners of war and missing in action. And it passed the House in April unanimously. But then in the Senate in October, the final hours of fall veto session, the Senate gutted it and replaced it with a bill expanding migrant sanctuary policies. Ultimately, it passed in the early morning hours of Halloween, and yesterday, Governor J.B. Pritzker signed the measure into law.
This legislation that I'm signing today will allow for a civil lawsuit against law enforcement officers who violate the Illinois or United States constitutional rights of the members of the public that they are supposed to be protecting. No one, and I mean no one, is above the law, especially those wearing a badge representing the law.
So the governor saying that this allows for private rights of action against law enforcement for violating certain rights. And it also does a variety of things, like requires hospital settings, universities, daycares to have a plan in place and how to communicate with law enforcement and to not hand over immigration status or perceived immigration status to law enforcement. Here's Senate President Don Harmon, one of the sponsors of the bill, actually the official that gutted and replaced the POW-MIA bill. He also got money from the Illinois Trial Lawyers Association, which is an association of trial lawyers that benefit from going to trial on a whole host of things. He got $25,000 from that particular group, and here's what he had to say about the measure.
There is no badge, no title, no mask that puts anyone above the Constitution. This law sends the message that if you abuse your authority, there are consequences. Our rights follow us into the courthouse, onto campus, to the hospital, and when taking our kids to daycare. No one gets to take them away. We're providing the victims of this chaotic federal assault a clear legal path to go after their abusers and to hold them accountable.
So Harmon talking about more litigation. And Speaker Welch, he was another sponsor of the bill, also receiving $25,000 from the Illinois Trial Lawyers Association, talked about reflections of the past and would people stand up back then if they aren't standing up now.
If we were back in the Jim Crow days, would we stand up to Jim Crow? I asked them. If we were back in the days of the Holocaust, would we stand up and speak out against internment camps? I asked them, would we stand between our neighbors and the SS? Because history will judge our actions in this moment, just as it did our predecessors.
So the measure is now law, and we'll hear a little bit more from the news conference, but I wanted to include Republican State Representative John Cabello's reaction to this particular measure now becoming law.
You know, this was supposed to be going after ICE and federal agents. Well, they're federal agents, so there's a thing called the Supremacy Clause, I believe, where this won't apply to them at all. All this does is applies to the state's law enforcement officers, and I guess they just don't want law enforcement to do their job. They want them, I mean, might as well slap a security patch on them, because most law enforcement officers are getting pretty sick and tired of the Democrats and them passing laws that impede them doing their job lawfully. I keep hearing that there's it's flu season, and it's a blue flu that's coming that could last quite some time.
Cabello is in law enforcement next to being a state representative, so it's interesting to hear his thoughts. And the pushback from Republicans, and we heard it from State Representative Patrick Windhorst, the Republican floor leader in the House, and he said that while you're trying to go after ICE, there's the Federal Supremacy Clause that is likely not going to allow those lawsuits to move forward, so this is really just going to open it up to lawsuits against local and state police. And then you also have the potential for lawsuits against daycare centers if they don't have policies in place. And questions about what about immigrant daycare centers? Can they not ask about immigration status? Then you also have the liability of hospitals and universities and how that's going to play out with possible penalties against those institutions for violating this new expansion of the migrant sanctuary policies. State Senator Omar Aquino, Democrat from Chicago, pretty impassioned yesterday, standing next to the governor before he signed the measure. Here's what Aquino had to say yesterday.
You know, this was
and again, this is from the news conference, the bill signing ceremony.
This is time for everyone to speak up, including those on the other side. Those that say, don't tread on me. The government's treading, my friend. When will you speak up? When they come after you? When mass, unidentified federal agents go to your small town? Go to your churches? Go to your schools, your daycare centers? Is that when? Will it be when it's too late? I hope not.
I asked Cabello for a response to Aquino and that assertion that the government is treading on individuals.
The government is going after illegal aliens, people that broke the law. Many of them are the worst of the worst. And what I'm saying is that there are so many that are murderers, that are rapists, that are child molesters, that are going after children, that how you want us to, what? Is this guy for real? No, number one, I don't even know who he is. If he was sitting next to me, I wouldn't know. So if he wants to have a conversation, I'd be more willing to talk to him and try to open up his eyes that, you know, there's criminals here. People that are hurting other human beings. Why would you not want them gone? Why do you want them in your district? Why do you want to protect them?
So again, that's State Representative John Cabello responding to State Senator Omar Aquino on this. And keep in mind, I mean, yesterday we talked about how the ICE director, Todd Lyons, is urging for the state to turn over 4,000 illegal immigrants that have charges against them on murder and sex crimes against children and a variety of other violent crimes that Illinois is holding right now in their custody. And ICE is saying hand those 4,000 over, and also claiming that 1,700 criminal aliens have been released onto the streets under the Pritzker administration since January 20th this year. So you've got ICE urging the state to start cooperating. And I asked Cabello, would the law that the governor signed yesterday, expanding the state's migrant sanctuary policies, be necessary if it wasn't for the state having the Trust Act that prohibits local and state law enforcement enforcement from cooperating with federal immigration officials, to have the Way Forward Act that prohibits the use of county jails as detention beds for ICE. ICE having to, quote, flood the zone because the state and local police are not cooperating by law with federal immigration enforcement. So would the flooding the zone be necessary if it wasn't for all of these, migrant sanctuary policies? And Cabello responding to that question.
No, not at all. Plus, I mean, all the governor had to do is say, what do you need us to do to help? And none of this would have happened. None of it would have happened. They would have cooperated fully with the state and went after the people that, if there was actual help, this wouldn't have happened. You wouldn't have had the things going on in the streets like they were.
Somebody else sounding off on the issue of immigration enforcement. Chicago flips red. They held a news conference yesterday, primarily to talk about the city budget, and we'll unpack some of what they had to say yesterday in the next segment. But Danielle Carter-Walters, she said that elected officials are violating U.S. law.
Under the federal law, Article 8, USC, Section 1324 says that aiding and abetting or encouraging illegal aliens is a crime. So when our leaders like Byron Central Lopez, Brandon Johnson, J.D. Pritzker encourage these policies, they are breaking the law. They are betraying the people of this city, and they need to be held accountable for it. Enough is enough.
Well, the law is the law in Illinois, and you still got litigation against the state's migrant sanctuary policies tied up in court. The Trump administration going after Illinois, Cook County, and Chicago. You also have the state of Illinois going after the Trump administration for the use of the National Guard, both cases tied up in courts. So where's this going to go? We'll be keeping an eye on it here with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop, and it is The Center Square.